Hello, witches! It is a long time since I have made a witch life video. Life has just been lately, it seems like there's never enough time in the day, and I am so sorry. I've kind of been neglecting the witch life part. I'm trying to get everything back on track and get going again. So now, the last time we had a witch life, I said that I would be talking about... Sorry, I'm just making sure he's staying on the puppy pads. So we were going to talk about how to charge, cleanse, and recharge any of your stones, your magical tools, and what have you. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can charge something, and there's also a few do's and don'ts, and also it depends on what kind of spell you're going to be doing. So now let's talk about the difference between sun charging and moon charging. So any spell that involves war, banishment, or male deities, you are going to charge everything in the sun. War water and Mars water are charged in the sun. Mars water, it's actually named for the god Mars, who in my pantheon is Ares, the Greek god of war. Mars is the same thing, it's just the Roman god of war. They just changed his name. The reason why it's called Mars water is because people use it for banishment, protection, and to make a barrier, a perimeter. What makes war water different from Mars water is your intention when you charge it. So when you make Mars water, there's like this whole thing. I mean, making Mars water is not a one-day thing. Just so that you understand, Mars water, you have to collect the water, you have to collect the rainwater from a violent storm. You have to drop nails into it and have it turn rusty. Then you have to charge it in the sun on every Tuesday, and you have to stir it up and pour energy into it. So you're looking at, I mean, if it's raining right now and it's a violent storm, and you go out and you put a bowl out right now, you're still looking at a month away from having Mars water. Just Mars water, you're looking at a month away. War water takes like another month, because once you have your Mars water set up, great. Now you have to intention it for declaring war. So whatever spell you're going to use against somebody, now you have to mix it with the Mars water. If you're incorporating the Mars water and you're going to be like spreading it around their property, like spraying it around their property, you have to incorporate the spell that you've done into the Mars water and charge it the same way you did before for another 3 weeks. So you're almost like 2 months out from a war water spell. So again, it comes down to planning. As soon as I hear rain, I go out with a bowl of water, because I never know when I might run out of Mars water and then more water, and have to do all this over again. So whenever it rains, I'm out there with a bowl of water. So that, I mean, that's just part of what I mean when sometimes it can be just intensive in your charging. So you have to understand, what you're doing with that. Now, as for spells that have to do with the moon, spells of like hexes, healings, and like any spells that have like a feminine aspect or a feminine deity to it. And when I say feminine, I mean love spells, the healing spells. Luck spells can actually go either way. It just depends on what kind of luck you're looking for. So those need lunar chargings, and that is harder because, again, it depends on what your intention is. If you're trying to do a banishment, if you want somebody out of your life, you would charge the spell on a waning to a new moon, okay? Not on the new moon, from the date of the waning moon, just before the new moon. That is when you would do this spell. That is when you would charge it up. If you're looking for a new beginning, you would do it on the new moon. If you are looking for, if say you've started a business and you want it to grow, you would do that either from the new moon to just before the full moon, or you could start it as late as the waxing moon all the way up to the full moon. The full moon is for fruition. It's like a final step type of thing. If you need a full-on lunar charge, that's when you charge on a full moon. So again, it's all about planning. And sometimes, you know, you have something that just pops up and you have to do something on the fly. That is where there's problems with the moon spells, because you have to go by the phases of the moon. Whereas the sun's out, you know, the sun comes out every day. Sometimes it's just clouded over, but the sun comes out every day. The moon, on the other hand, has phases. So any moon charges, it's harder if you need something done like that because it just popped up. It's not impossible. I mean, sometimes the timing is just right. You know, something happens and you're like, oh, it's a waning moon. Perfect. I can get rid of this person. And then you have to move fast, though. Otherwise, you have to wait for the next moon. So now let's talk about cleansing an item. Now, when would you have to cleanse it? Well, here's my Antheme, my go-to tool. Say I use this to cut some bologna. For whatever reason, I had no clean knives, and I had to use, and this, like, most of the time, all of my other Anthemes are letter openers. This is not, this is actually a dagger. I can cut myself on this. This is not a letter opener. This is a dagger. Which is why I usually do not leave the house with this. I'll leave the house with the letter opener if I'm using it. Because if I ever get stopped in a cemetery by the police and I have a dagger, they're like, what the hell are you doing with this? If I'm there with the letter opener, they're just like, okay, here's another kook. So, say I used this for whatever reason to cut bologna. Well, now I can't use this for any magical reason because it's tainted. I have to cleanse it. So normally the wait time to fully cleanse off anything is 3 days. Now you can jump start it, and you have to remember on some materials, not a good idea. You can jump start it by wiping this down in salt water. Now this is metal. I wouldn't recommend salt water. So what do? Keep it in its sheath. And I always have a dish of Himalayan salt. Always. Always out. I would change your Himalayan salt every 3 months. If you're doing heavy use, if you're doing like witchcraft every single day, which I don't. But if you're doing witchcraft every single day, and you have to like reconsecrate your crystals, if you have to reconsecrate jewelry, if you're doing this, that, I would change this out every month. But every 3 months, you change this out. Now, that doesn't really fit. It doesn't fit in here. So there's other ways you can do it. If you have something like this and it doesn't fit in a dish, you can either get a bigger dish, but this is my go-to because it fits over here, and just about everything that I need to cleanse fits in that. So what you do is you can take a bigger mirror. Now you can go to the Dollar Tree and you can get a mirror. Like one of the big mirrors, like the picture frame type mirrors, that would fit this. If I put it like at an angle, it would fit. So how do you consecrate that? How do you clean that? Well, that you can wipe down with the salt water. It's a mirror. It's okay. It's a cheap mirror. If it gets tarnished, throw it away. Go get another one. So you can go ahead and cleanse that down and then leave it out in the sun to energize, to soak in the energy. You leave it out for one whole day. Soak up the full rays of the sun. Soak up the full rays of the full moon. Full moon. Okay? So you have to leave it out for a whole 24 hours to soak up the energy. Then you can go ahead. It's already wiped down in salt water, so it's already done that. You've soaked up the energy. Then you can go ahead and put this on here. Minimum 24 hours. Minimum. I would not leave this outside simply because I live in an apartment complex. If you have a house, you can leave this outside. You can charge it outside as long as it's not raining. So that it can soak up full moon and full sun. If not, you can always go ahead, take your Himalayan salt, rest this on the Himalayan salt, pour salt on the mirror, and then put it over on top of it. Sprinkle on top of it, and then 24 hours in that salt, you're good to go. So that's cleansing it. Energizing it, you would have to do like the energizing spell, or again, leave it outside. I energize everything that I do with this. Simply because I work on a different energy level, dealing with necromantic spirits, than if I was just doing regular. This especially has to kind of go to a different level of just normal consecration and normal energy soaking. So that would be a little different for me, but that is mainly what you would do. Your mirror does not need to be again like the salt. If you're doing heavy work, re-energizing and everything, once a month. If you're doing just normal witchcraft stuff, every 3 months. You reconsecrate the mirror and re-energize the mirror, and then you can go ahead and re-energize this. You don't have to leave it outside. It does have the energy in it. But that's what I recommend. Same thing with the salt. Leave the salt outside. Definitely make sure you're not like in a muggy place, because like, see, this has to be changed, but you can see it's like clumping. It's like clumped. Because I live in Florida and it's muggy as hell here. It's another reason why you definitely have to change out your salt too. But yeah, every 3 months for normal use, every month for excessive use. And you can charge up your salt the same way. And then you just stick your gemstones in there or whatever. Again, remember, you do not want to use salt on specific items. Now, there's a crystal called selenite, and I actually have, I don't know if you've ever seen selenite. I have it here somewhere. I'm kind of like feeling around for it. There it is. So I have a selenite wand, okay? It's very luminescent. It almost kind of looks like a moonstone. But the difference between this is you will see lines in it. You will be able to see the striations that you will not see in a moonstone. So that's how you tell it's a selenite. It will also feel, even though this is like polished and tumbled, you'll still feel a little roughness. You'll still feel some of the striations in it. That's how you can tell this is selenite and not moonstone. Selenite is extremely porous. It's actually, although it looks and feels solid, it's actually kind of soft, kind of like calcite on the inside. If you get this wet, you're going to destroy it. It's going to get into the pores of it and it's going to crumble. It doesn't matter if it's, I mean, you could seal it, but I mean, you don't really want to seal gemstones because you will seal off the energy. And all this is tumbled and polished. This is not sealed. So you can't get selenite wet. You can't get certain soft stones wet. Porous stones you do not want to put into salt. You would have to charge it with a mirror if you're doing porous type of stones. Turquoise, like real turquoise, not like dyed or painted howlite. Real turquoise is very porous. It is a very soft rock. I would not recommend putting real turquoise in salt. I would put it here. Crystals, like things that are actually like crystals, I would say they would be okay as long as this is really dry. As long as you are not in a humid place, as long as you are in a temperature and humidity controlled place, it would be okay putting it in the salt. Otherwise, just to be on the safe side, if you ever have a question of whether the material might suffer, such as, say, there's like cloth, like if you have a bracelet and it has like maybe some leather, should be okay, but if it's like faux leather or something like that, if you have a question about putting it in the salt and you worry about that, put it on a mirror. Just get a mirror. It's like, so you can get a mirrored tray. I mean, you can go to Ross and get a mirrored tray for less than $10. And, you know, you have it on your like vanity or in your bathroom and people are just like, oh, it's a mirrored tray. They never know that it was for Wicca, you know, just in case you have to keep it under wraps. They would never, it looks like an innocuous tray, but it's not. It's actually your charging station. So, if you ever have any doubts about cleansing things or whatever, I would just put it on the mirror. Now, how do you cleanse something if you're afraid of putting it in, like washing it with salt water or dipping in the salt? How are you supposed to cleanse it? Well, there is the smoke, the incense cleansing, okay? I hate sage. You know I hate sage. I should say sage leaves. Now, this sage, I love this sage. I am looking to include this in the first gift boxes in case you've never, not gift boxes, subscription boxes. In case you have never smelled this, this is great, and you can actually use this as a cleanser as well, the white sage. You can burn sage leaves. I hate that shit, and I don't want it in my house if I don't have to, so I don't cleanse by that. You can also cleanse by other means. Black salt, you can burn a combination of black salt and cedar. Or you can get resin. I would go with the resin on this instead of, because you can buy like the incense sticks and the incense cones. But if I were you, in all honesty, with the frankincense and myrrh, I would go with the resin-based frankincense and myrrh, and I would go ahead and burn that on a charcoal tablet. And you just pass, just like I'm doing with my hand, you just pass it through, okay? And then place it down on charging. So if you ever have any worries about salt water or regular salt, and you want to cleanse something, you know what they say, kill it with fire? Well, you can kill the negativity that might be on that, or the residual, with the smoke from the fire. So, and of course you can always cleanse it with smoke from a bonfire. If you're out there and you're having like I don't know if I want to say coven meeting, but you're out there and you're celebrating like Beltane, or you're celebrating a goddess, or having some other kind of hootenanny, and you have a fire going. You can always throw some herbs, some of the herbs that I've mentioned, on the fire. Just throw it on that, and then just pass. I would use like some tongs or something, or a stick. I wouldn't get too close to the fire, but you could pass that through the smoke of the fire. Any type of, if you're actually burning either ash, cedar, or even apple wood, you really wouldn't have to put any herbs down. If you're actually having a fire with any of those, you can pass it through the smoke from those, and you don't even have to put herbs on it. So those are ideas on cleansing and energizing all of your magical tools, your magical jewelry, and even empowering your herbs. This is not love potion, this is actually white sand. But if I had to empower the white sand, obviously I'm not going to put it in the salt, I would put it on the mirror. And if I had to cleanse it first, obviously I can't wet the sand down, so go through the fire. So that is how the different ways and the different options that you have in energizing and cleansing all of your magical items. So I really hope this wasn't too confusing. I know it kind of talked a little circle here and went over here and veered back on the road over here. I hope it really wasn't too confusing. If you do have further questions, if I made this more difficult than it needed to be, you can always email me at salemwillow@yahoo.com. Of course, my Facebook, my Instagram, and you can always go through the Witchery. So I do hope that was helpful. I do hope that was informative. I am so sorry it took me this long to get this video up and going. And I am going to try to be a little more consistent and try to get everything back on track. And so I will see you guys next week in the next Witch Life video. And I promise there will be a Witch Life video next week. So I will see you guys then. Thank you so much for watching.